Welcome to Cancer 101. What are the three things you should know right at the start of your cancer experience? Well, the first is the type of cancer that you have, which can be a little confusing because it may go under different names. What is the stage of your cancer, meaning how extensive is your cancer? And the third thing is, what is the grade of your cancer? Tumor grade refers to how aggressive the cancer is likely to be. So let's talk about each of those in order. First of all, the type of cancer. If you have lung cancer, that's not really enough to know what type of cancer you have because there are various subtypes. The two major subdivisions in lung cancer are small cell lung cancer that affects a particular type of cell that pathologists have named small cells because of the way they look. And then there's non-small cell lung cancer, which affects the rest of the cells in that tissue, not necessarily all of them, but the majority of the cells left are the non-small cells. And so you have small cell lung cancer or non-small cell lung cancer. And as you search for information, you need to be searching under the right category. Secondly, another example would be kidney cancer. That's the common name for it. And you might ask your doctor, hey doc, so what kind of cancer do I actually have? What is the name of it? What will I search for as I look on the internet for information? And the doctor will say kidney cancer. And you should ask, does it go by any other names, and so I don't get confused? And he might say, yeah, it's called renal cell carcinoma. That's the medical term. And you could say, could you write that down for me so I could search for it? The next thing is staging, and this is a very important part of your cancer experience. You need to know what your stage is at the beginning of the treatment, or at the beginning of the process, usually before the treatment begins. So once you've been diagnosed with cancer, your biopsy comes back positive for, say, breast cancer. The next thing you need to know is, well, how extensive is my cancer? You won't necessarily know that right away. Your doctor still needs to do a number of tests to try to figure out how extensive your cancer is. They may need to remove lymph nodes. When they remove the breast lump, they may also remove lymph nodes in your armpit. And that will determine to a certain extent what your stage might be. Because if the cancer is localized just to the breast, then it may be an early stage. If it's already spread to lymph nodes, then that's a somewhat more extensive stage. And if it's spread to distant organs already, then that would be, say, stage 4. And the reason this is important is because your prognosis is certainly affected by your stage, but also the best treatment options for you are very much determined by not just the type of cancer, but the stage of that type of cancer. An example would be colon cancer. So let's say you're stage 1 and 2. Your only treatment is surgery. There's no need for additional treatment, what's called adjuvant therapy, like adding chemo. Adjuvant therapy means adding additional treatment to the main primary treatment, which in this case is surgery. So there's no need to add chemotherapy. It doesn't help. It doesn't improve your survival chances. It just causes you a bit of misery for 4 to 6 months as you take it. So basically, if you're a stage 1 or 2, you don't need it. But by stage 3, you do need chemotherapy because it's been shown to significantly affect longevity. And so therefore, your doctor will strongly urge you to not just get surgery, but also to get chemotherapy and possibly some other treatment. So that's the significance of staging. The third item was tumor grade. Tumor grading refers to looking at the cells under a microscope and seeing how aggressive the cells are likely to be. How do they do that? How does the pathologist who determines these things do that? Well, that's their expertise, looking at cells and tissue under microscopes to determine what's going on. And so they're looking at individual cells and trying to determine how well defined the structure of the cell is, meaning does it have all the normal functioning parts of a cell? So a cell is like a little living entity, and it has its own cellular organs called organelles, things like mitochondria or the nucleus and so forth. as cancer cells become more and more aggressive, they become more and more primitive. They become what's called less differentiated, meaning they just look more and more primitive, and you can't look at it and say, oh, look, there's a colon cancer cell, but I can still identify most of the normal organelles inside it, and it still looks fairly normal. Yeah, it's already become cancerous, but at this point, it doesn't look terribly aggressive because it's not very primitive and growing wildly out of control. And so that's what tumor grading is all about. And you can see how that would affect your prognosis. So that's another thing you can ask your doctor. Please talk about the tumor grade that I have and how that might affect me and my prognosis. You can also see it on the pathology report. I encourage everyone to get a copy of your pathology report. A lot of good information on there, even if it's a little bit hard to read. But you can always call the Cancer Information Service at 1-800-422-6237. I'll put the number up on the screen, and they can talk you through the pathology report and explain what's being said there if the medical language is too difficult. So I really encourage you to get your pathology report and also to call the Cancer Information Service to talk to someone about it and what it means. Now, there are different grading systems, and so you'll have to learn a little bit about that. If you happen to have prostate cancer, there's a specialized grading system called the Gleason grade. It's 2 separate scores given by the pathologist as they look at your tissue under a microscope. And those 2 scores go from 1 to 5, 1 being good, slow growing and whatever. But the 2 different scores are then added together. And so the minimum score, Gleason grade, is a 2, and that means slow growing, and hopefully it means likely not to be a significant problem. And a 10 is the highest score. You can get a 5 plus 5. Other cancers will simply say well differentiated, which means a low grade, slow growing tumor, or poorly differentiated or moderately differentiated. So poorly differentiated would be the most aggressive type of cancer. So there you have it. In the beginning, the first couple months, since it takes a while to get things sorted out, everything may not be known, but keep asking your doctor these questions until you're completely sure you have the correct information, since they're so significant. The name of the cancer, meaning the type of the cancer. Number 2 is the stage of the cancer, and that's likely to change a bit over time as they find out more information. So on that one in particular, keep asking your doctor, has my stage changed at all as a result of the most recent testing you've done? And then finally, tumor grade. So I hope this information is helpful, and we'll see you in the next video.